but he always looks to scale. Like, I don't know, he scales without taking the map from 23 Savage.
He scales by like murdering
like,
people.
I'll play pubs. When I play pubs with him, he'll go like first item Midas quad mid. I'm like, why does my mid have a Midas? And then he would just literally 1v5 the game. I'm like, okay, that's why he has a Midas.
Yep.
And it's the same on Doom, right? Like, he's good at understanding how his gold puts him in a position to win the game or identifying that win condition for himself.
He fights with a Midas.
He does. He does fight with the Midas.
That's always the weird thing about T1 is like, in Animator, they would go like 3 minuses. That was a big thing that they would go 3 minuses, but then they would fight.
I know.
And my thought process was like, okay, maybe what they're doing is they're just getting 3 minuses so they know that they're going to outscale you, and then they just, like, I don't know, outplay you in team fights, or they fight in a way where it's like, okay, let's say you're fighting, you're like standing on a high ground, or you're defending your tower. Obviously, that's an easier fight to take than you going to the enemy tower because, you know, they have the tower aura, the tower hitting you, and so forth. So it's like they take these fights that are good for them while playing really greedy and then eventually outscale you.
I actually really like that because if you think about their style, where they're playing this long-range poke, if you have Midases and you're just poking your enemies, they're feeling even more pressure to commit on you.
That's true.
And if you're both looking at each other, your Midases are actually gaining you gold and EXP while you're both just looking at each other. You just gain advantage.
Even more pressure to go on somebody.
You know what? There are people who are watching their first TI. So you know what? Let's do some Dota 101. What is a Midas?
Midas lets you consume a creep, and you get some...
Like 1.85 EXP.
1.85 times the EXP, and then like 200
I don't know how much gold.
Like
is it 200?
Yeah, the numbers are changing all the time, but basically it literally turns a creep into gold. That's like the idea.
The Midas lore.
More gold than it usually is.
Yes, but ironically, people build it because they want experience, usually,
yes, that is
because
true.
it also gives you a lot more experience.
Perfect. Love it. Okay, I want to talk about 23 Savage. This is a player who... You know, you hear the stories and you just go, yeah, I love this guy. Or you listen to the interviews and you go, yeah, I'm rooting for you so hard. And 23 Savage, he's been really impacted by COVID. He did find some limited success, I guess, in Fnatic. He was meant to be playing with Vici as well, but never really got to play with them because of COVID. And now, we used the word family earlier, but I'm going to use it again. He's found his family in T1. And people are talking about him as a superstar carry of the future, Ari. Ooh, and you know what? We're going to talk about him being a superstar after this first game, because right now we're ready to get into this match and the draft.
T1 versus PSG.LGD. Game 1.
Welcome to the first draft of the first series of the day. An exciting one at that, T1 versus LGD. To analyze this draft, we have a draft panel. My name is Ava Plus, joining me is Fogged and Lacoste. And I'd like to ask you, Lacoste, first, because you were the SEA expert. Most people are not really believing in T1 beating LGD. Maybe taking a game, but not the series. What can they do to change their minds?
What can they do? That's a good question, because T1 has shown stability. They also shown during the first and second DPC season that they can play from behind. Expert showed that, PSG.LGD, they are the team that they don't lose the laning stage, so that means most of the time they will stay ahead, and T1 is really familiar to know how to come back into the game. Their support duo, Zephyr and Whitemon, throughout the season 1 and 2, mostly on the backs of Snapfire and Lion, were the ones, bringing them back into the game when it was necessary, using smokes multiple times. I remember one particular game when they used 3 smokes in a row just to, come back into the game.
I've had games even during group stages where they were doing that. They quickly became my 2 favorite support duo of this tournament, and that's even saying that compared to LGD. They actually have my 2 favorite 4 positions they're playing in this series right here. I've got Shinkyu and I've got Zephyr. So both of them are super fun to watch, and let's go. We got the draft going already.
All right, so we start out with the Magnus Snapfire for LGD. And what do you think of this opening, Fogged?
Comfortable, strong, scaling, hits every timing, gives you Roche, gives you every possible potential you need, right? High magical damage in team fight, BKB piercing disable, an amp up, or 2 kind of amp ups for your carry, because these Snapfires are all going Solar Crest. You have Empower as well. Kind of gives you almost everything you want in a draft, just off these 2.
Yeah, it doesn't have too many weaknesses because you have a strong laning stage, you have a BKB piercing ability that's necessary, and also a lot of damage just for the Roche taking or for the tower taking potential. Weaver picked up by T1. they exclusively played as a position 4, so I assume they're going to do the same thing, especially because the lockdown is a bit limited from PSG.LGD. There's so far no silences, no instant stuns, unless Magnus, of course, gets a Blink Dagger, but that's going to take a while, and they open up with Lina as their second pick. Lina, one of the heroes from the mid lane that is not a magic damage-dealing hero anymore. She puts out a serious amount of physical damage because her talents really work well with that, and we see this new hybrid build, Boots of Travel, straight into BKB for sustain, keep using your mana to have 3 fiery soul stacks, and then go for a damage item, either like a Shadow Blade or a Crystallis, and she's also one of the better Silver Edge carriers.
Do you think that'll be enough to deter the Magnus away from mid? Because I know PSG.LGD, they run it in both, right? Like Nothing to Say and Faith Beyond will play it, so maybe not right away that they'll just switch it, but maybe that Lina's one, like, we're just going to put it out there so you have to move the Magnus away, kind of switch your hand a bit. And hey, ET makes it unpicked, unbanned for one of the first series I feel like I'm seeing so far, at least in the first 5-6 picks.
Could we still see it here?
Yeah.
He always wants to see it.
No, I mean, but we absolutely can see it too because it fits PSG.LGD perfectly. Like they've got Snapfire for Q, they can run it as a 5 position. T1 can still pick it up as a 5 position. I think Lina is. We always talk about mixed damage carries. Lina is one of those that is kind of mixed damage, so it does thrive off of ET as well.
PSG.LGD banning out some comfort heroes for T1.
Yep.
They played Drain Protector a couple of times. They love to have a lot of sustain for the poke damage that our panel talked about, and Doom, of course. Carl Doom has been amazing throughout both seasons, throughout the majors, because this guy just knows how to hit the timings perfectly. Sometimes, if he feels like it, Hand of Midas is necessary. You know, if it's needed to get a straight hood into a BKB, I saw that a couple of times from him, so no surprise that PSG.LGD decided to ban it out.
I feel like they also always set themselves up to have the best possible late game as well. They'll have this super dominant early game that they can win, but then you look at the draft and as it scales and it goes on and on and on, you're like, LGD will eventually win this game. So I feel like when you ban these type of heroes, you're setting yourself up that we will have the stronger draft in the late game. And I see Spectre banned too, and that's even more so that they're going to have this crazy type of scaling. But I like the Treant ban, not just because of comfort, but also versus like Empower and versus like Little Shredder that we've seen used so much. The armor is very useful. So that's really cool pickup. Really cool ban at least.
Dragonite will give them that tower damage, give them that Empower target, and also like instant initiation that I talked about that they didn't have any against Weaver. Just feels like very limited damage output so far from T1 against the Dragonite. All these are strength heroes. They become super tanky early on. And one of the Cuckoo's Classic, Legion Commander picked up, so that means the spell mechanic, you're trying to find a way to amplify your carry, and it's exactly what Legion Commander does.
Yeah, but it's a good way to save always versus the Magnus if you're in position. The CM, they go for it again. I saw them pick it a couple times, you know, they really liked it with the tree, but most of the time I picked the CM, it's because they were lacking some type of like a root, you know, some type of like hard disable versus an Ember Spirit or somebody that's just this elusive carry. This one's a little different, but they really like the hero.
Is there any use for the Arcane Aura here that you see?
Fantastic. Yeah,
Right.
Absolutely. All three are great. I mean,
I don't
CM
think I
Aura is
ever
always.
heard
I don't think
anyone
anybody's
say,
been like, man,
oh,
what a
no,
bad CM Aura.
don't
Sure, but you pick it up with like a
Don't you dare skip.
bristleback and you go, oh wow, this is a combo, right? You usually lacks mana. Is there anything here you're like, I can abuse this Arcane Aura?
Yeah, for Lina especially. In this
Okay.
game, she consumes so much mana. Lina is one of the heroes that I don't think she moves from a lane to lane unless she's full mana. She just prefers to stay, farm the small camp, push out the wave so that you can't gank her, and she's always sitting at like 10-15% of mana. So this time around, we might see Lina do a bit more. You know, she relies heavily on picking up the runes, so we're going to see some movements. We were one of the better heroes to control the runes for, because Weaver can get easily from the lane to the top rune possibly, and Bane. This hero has been amazing. Fogged, I mean, you and me talk a lot about the Bane, but yeah, go ahead.
We were just waiting at group stages. I think me and you were like, where the hell is Bane? Like, what's going on? Why is no one picking it? Now we get to the main event. We get to like everybody's picking it. It's amazing. I think this hero was extremely undervalued in the group stages. I think even in Feeble, every single thing about this hero is insane now. BKB piercing disable. You could list off a million things. Nobody can fight toe to toe with you. And versus Legion Commander duel, wabam! You get that nightmare off. You can completely counteract it unless you are press the attack first and whatnot. Sure, there's some other things that can go on, but always a great save mechanic. I'm worried about team fight on T1. I got to be honest a little bit in comparison.
So what could they do to mitigate it? Is there any carry that you think that would bring enough team fight here to cover this weakness, or should they just concentrate on their strengths and try to push hard that way?
I think they should concentrate on fast-paced kind of draft, just not really looking to play around these cooldowns, but not sure what the 23 hero is at the moment yet for that.
They ban out Medusa, makes a lot of sense. His comfort hero, and also relatively strong laner. A couple of ways to buff him up, and it's not a good illusion type of a game, I would say. PL is out of this game. You're playing into Magnus, into Dragonite, too much splash, too much AoE damage. But I'm also worried. You said there is no team fight. There's a lot of single target abilities on T1. And they don't have that much burst damage. Lina provides you with some. She can play with the Legion Commander, but I'm a bit afraid this double, I'll call it a budget save with Cookie and the Nightmare could cause a lot of issues for T1.
I'm always worried when they don't have great reach to get into the back as well. When I see like a Bane and I don't see you having the greatest ways to actually stop the Fiend's Grip, I'm always concerned. Like right now, who's going to have to commit into the back line to stop that? Legion Commander has to either be in position to press the attack, save the person, or Lina has to commit herself to get that Sun. Or like, it's just really difficult for them to actually get to this Bane that's gonna have position to get Fiend's Grip in a lot of fights.
T1 is in a tough position where you are picking your carry without knowing the matchup, and also you're playing into two piercing and magic immune abilities. You have RP and Bane, so you're never gonna feel super safe playing into a fight.
Oh, banning out the Bloodseeker too. So what, is Weaver gonna be carry then?
Would that give them the fast pace that you were talking about? And you can pick up some team fight as well here, maybe with the 4 position?
I guess it could. I'm a little worried because they do have that DK hard stun. Bane's animations are so fast now versus a hero like Weaver. It can be really difficult to play around. But like if he gets an early Linken's, that could be something that can protect him. That's something I've seen a couple players do now. Sure, there's a lot of different instances that Bane can cancel it, but
They're not worried though. They saw that and they still ban out another carry. It's just Lark.
Yeah, that makes sense too. When the Bloodseeker's banned out, that's the other one that doesn't want to play versus Bloodseeker at all.
Is there anything that you can, like, can you pretend, because you don't have last pick, right? You can't really flex anything that could go 4 and carry, much like the Weaver, right? So you kind of have to show your hand here. And it's going to be a Morphling, a 23 Savage special.
Okay.
Some diverse damage here as well, right? That we've been talking about. Something to deal with the DK. A lot of single target now, but still lacking that team fight.
It's a good PL game now for PSG.LGD. Any kind of mana burn, they really lack AoE. Legion Commander is decent to one extent with overwhelming odds. Other than that, these heroes, they really do not like to play into PL.
Morphling too. There's a lot of burst damage that what I assume is going to be, it could potentially be either offlaner. It's going to be either DK or Magnus plus Snapfire. I've seen these Snapfires when you're laning versus Morphling. You go Scatter Blast 2 points early so you can try to get those like quick kills on him in the laning phase. Also, Morphling versus Breathe Fire. That's percent damage reduction versus high agi, and there's Enfeeble in the game. Yep. Enfeeble, I think something is an ability that's extremely undervalued. I think versus a hero like Morphling, it could be pretty brutal.
Because of the cast point reduction, right?
Yes, cast point reduction and also attack damage reduction, health regen reduction too when you're trying to strength morph. You can't do it as good versus Bane too, and they're going to get Ame on his Terrorblade.
So, closing thoughts here about the drafts. Fogged first. Strengths and weaknesses you can see about, let's say, PSG.LGD.
T1, for PSG.LGD, they have a super well-rounded draft, scales into the late game absurdly hard, also works really strong early game because they have various different types of push and ways to take objectives. I think they've hit everything on the head for the side of PSG.LGD.
Give me some strengths for T1.
T1, they have Crystal Maiden Aura, so these support and Legion Commander, of course, Lina, will benefit quite a lot from that, so that will allow them to cast a bit more spells in the laning stage, play a bit more aggressively, but I gotta say I'm leaning towards PSG.LGD. Whenever I see their lineup, I'm like, this lineup does not have any weaknesses. Yeah.
Well, we know where the draft panel is leaning towards, but we need to know what to look out for. And that is why on the sidelines we have BSJ waiting for us with his last word.
Thank you, Avo. As when I watch LGD draft, I see a team that treats the enemy draft as a disease. And they see the symptoms, and they have to address them at every stage. So when we see this draft, I like to explain why LGD picks the heroes they pick. Weaver is a hero that wraps around on the backline supports and murders them with his bugs. In the Snapfire support, one of the few supports with Little Shredder that can remove that bug instantly. Then you have these backline squishy ranged damage dealers with the DK Blink Stun in order to address them, and the high armor to deal with the minus armor. Then you pick the Bane with the Nightmare Save, which removes or bounces back and forth between the two heroes in the duel, effectively negating the initiation that T1 is representing. Now you have the Morphling, a durable core with the saves from the Legion as well as the Weaver, making it difficult to win short fights. So they go for a carry with long, sustained damage output throughout the course of an entire team fight. And will they be able to cure the disease, or will T1 finally plague them? Let's find out with Sunsfan and Cinderin.
Thank you, Dr. BSJ. Sunsfan here with Cinderin. We have quite the matchup here, my good friend. Great to be with you as always. LGD versus T1. You're supposed to...
Oh, I'm finishing your sentences.
Sentences, that's right.
Yes.
T1, this is going to be quite the showdown. T1, of course, got off to a bit of a rough start in the group stage, but have bounced back looking a lot like they did back in the Animajor. And, of course, LGD virtually untouchable.
Yeah.
Do you think that this is going to be what everybody hopes it to be, which is a 3-game series?
I'll be honest with you, I think LGD are just such a strong favorite coming in. Like, when you have a group stage where you go 15-1, aren't you kind of supposed to be 2-0 in the first game of the upper bracket, almost no matter who you face from the other group, right? A team that's 10-6 or 11 and, let's do some math here, 11-5.
You're doing great. Keep it up.
你这么菜，你的队友不会生气吧，哥哥？
But what are your thoughts on this going forward for the laning stage?
It seemed like a specific response pick, right? I would think this is a lane that Lina does well in, especially after the nerfs to Dragon Blood. I think Dragon Knight fared better if you go back. What's that now? That nerf is like 2 months ago or whatever. But specifically because LGD picked it into the Lina like this, I would imagine they do feel like this is one of the better matchups. Obviously, Lina kind of doesn't lose to anyone mid.
Yeah.
So it's about, okay, what hero can we get that fits our game plan that also doesn't suffer too hard? And I think Dragon Knight is one of the heroes that does better, but would still expect just theoretically Carl to come out on top in this lane. But, we'll see
definitely has a better ability to flash farm and whatnot, but the issue with that is if you go to the jungle, then Dragon Knight could do a considerable amount of damage to the tower. But we've been seeing a lot of that into the off lane or the safe lane, like basically not mid. The DK will just transition to another lane as well. So we'll see what they choose to do this time for PSG.LGD. Gotten to cast a few games of T1, but mostly our cast of T1.
Oh, Nightmare bottom. Zephyr could actually be in trouble here.
The reflection is there with the right clicks with that Metamorphosis as he gets off his swarm. Press the attack, does give him a little bit extra HP, and will live as a result. But T1, good to see them kind of bouncing back after that first day of group stage, because a lot of high hopes for them, especially in the SCA region. They played out of their minds at the Animajor, but it felt like after that, they were kind of a hit or a miss. They weren't as consistent as we were hoping. Of course, part of that could be the fact that they qualify for TI and whatnot, but good to see that they bounced back here. But again, they are against the juggernaut of this, and not just their group, but the entire TI right now in PSG.LGD.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back the last couple of years of TI where it has felt like there's been that clear of a favorite after the groups. I'm not sure if that was the case.
LGD was 1 year, but they didn't win.
Yeah.
Got third place, I believe. You're going to see a skewer here from Faith Beyond. Whitemon in quite a bit of trouble. I think he's resigned to his own death here, but Jin Q might get right-clicked down by 23 Savage as well. Looks like it'll end up being likely a trade of sorts as Faith Beyond just needs a couple more right-clicks with that shockwave. So 1 for 1, but First Blood is the way of T1.
Yeah, goes to the Crystal Maiden. It's going to grab the boots and maybe a little bit extra regen here, heading back into lane to help out 23 Savage. So yeah, a nice little head start for them up in the top lane. I think overall still, though, Magnus is thriving. This is a very good lane matchup for Magnus. At least in the beginning, Magnus just has overwhelming damage. Even when Morph is pretty far into the agility, he just hits so hard with the Quelling Blade plus Empower bonus. Aw, they might kill Savage here almost. GQ,
He's going to get punished around into Jin Q. Waveform, couple more right clicks. Down he goes again.
Uncharacteristic. I could see what he was going for there. Thought he had the burst, but then the punish is just so easy for T1 there. That's very, very good news for them in that top lane. The kill going to 23 Savage as well will almost equalize him with the Magnus now.
And nothing to say in the mid lane is 20-7 in terms of CS, and the other side 17-2 for Carl. So nothing to say, doing really well.
I mean, I may just be wrong about the matchup. I don't know.
Nothing to say is a god as well, right?
I think Carl's laning on Lina in general has been really good, though. So I haven't watched the lane super closely this game, but just in general across the games he has played Lina, he generally does what he's supposed to do. So perhaps LGD have found a hero here in this patch that can win against Lina.
Dragon Tail, there's going to be a considerable amount of damage from nothing to say. There's no real rotations coming in, so I don't think a kill is able to happen as Carl.
Oh, missing that LSA could have almost killed him. He needed one more hit and then Soul Ring into Breathe Fire. There is a Fairy Fire on Carl, but yeah, nothing to say. Is honestly kind of bullying the Lina. I can't believe I'm saying that.
Not something you see every day.
Maybe my read on the matchup is just wrong.
Jin Q trying to backstab here, but Carl on his way to the triangle here to pick up that bound. Okay, yeah, Y makes a nice transition.
He's gonna kill him here.
Yeah, the Nightmare with the right clicks. It looks like Zephyr. Oh, he does have one more Shikuchi.
Why misclick
gonna find his way close to Jin Q. Just does not see him thanks to the fog, so he gets off the health salve, but
I think Y did attack ground and hit the Weaver bug once instead of the Weaver there. Needed that one extra attack, so that failed attack will send Weaver back to base instead of the Grave. It's still good, obviously, and this mid pressure is mounting very quickly.
Yeah, just the forced out just allows the Dragon Form to apply all that pressure that we kind of talked about to that tower. So already at half HP, and Carl, I mean, he's losing mid, but not by an astronomical amount by any means, but the fact that it's even that point is crazy, considering it's a DK versus...
Here, 10 CS behind
He's going to connect. Cuckoo, he's done. So PSG.LGD evens it up in terms of the kills, but you can see there's still a 1K net worth lead for them.
I mean, you say you're not losing by an astronomical amount, but you're a lane dominator and you're 500 gold behind minute 6. This feels like a big loss to me.
Is that astronomical, though?
I don't know. The universe is very big.
Yes.
So you're probably right. It's just a...
I just want to mention that Twitch chat is starting to fail a bit. The top is not glowing as much as I would like. Could you please correct that? Thank you. Really appreciate that. We can see the top net worth right now is Ame on this terribly. How is this game looking for him in terms of like a theory crafting, just as a TB game overall?
I would say it's pretty damn good. The one hero you picked into that... Oh, hang on.
Yep.
Mid lane.
Dragon Form, Y in the vicinity. Swarm comes out as well, but a nice LSA. Carl has his ult, and nothing to say will drop as a result. And Y taking some right clicks as well, so double kill for Carl. Nice rotations from T1 overall. Jin Q gonna get caught by the Frostbite. This could be a triple kill for Carl. Indeed, it is. Talk about a bounce back for T1.
Really, really good rotation, bringing in both supports from 2 separate sides and just connecting all of the spells there, getting the vision down as well, pre-play in that mid lane. Very, very good. They bring Carl back into the game in a big way. He's actually ahead of Dragon Knight now. Can you believe it took a triple kill to get 50 net worth ahead? But
not
you
bad.
know, at least you got there. As far as the Terrorblade goes, I think it's a very good game for TB. The primary concern you have here is probably the Morphling E-Blade, which you know has been traditionally a counter pick actually to Terrorblade.
Yeah.
But they do choose to pick it into it largely because of what I think. Largely, I think because of what BSJ said. This is a very good
initiation. Y gets off the Nightmare. Nothing to say is in his dragon form as well. You can see Whiteman taking most of the damage here, but then there's the duel. Carl doesn't have that much mana to expend, but the LSA should be enough. Is nothing to say. Takes another death in this game. Again, great rotations from T1, despite them being the ones getting initiated on.
I thought they had the Dragon Tail ready on Dragon Knight. That's why I called the CM dead on the spot there, but it was still on cooldown from a little bit of harassment he had done earlier. Obviously level 1 Dragon Tail, 16 seconds cooldown. And T1, they get another good move, really putting a lot of emphasis on this mid lane, and it's paying off. They're still not ahead on gold, but at the very least they're like stopping the bleeding in the lane that was suffering the most. And I think if you want to win this game, you need Lina to be strong. Because I don't think Morphling is going to cut it alone against Terrorblade when you're playing against 2 BKB piercing disables. That has got to be a concern for 23 Savage. You need to play around Fiend Script as well as RP. You could take off one of them with press the attack theoretically. All right, don't get ahead of yourselves, Cheers. It was just a little bit of harass on the
Baited.
It's fine. It's fine. I was like, oh, what's happening top? Oh, it's Little Shredder.
Good effort. That was a good effort, Cheer, no doubt. We have plenty of room for those for sure. So, as you can see, Ame's still at top of the net worths right now. Carl working on the Boots of Travel as 23 Savage now in the jungle.
Whitemon, Nightmare.
Yeah, might be shown here. The Nightmare Frostbite exchange. 23 Savage, double cookie. Whitemon will fall first, and 23 Savage did turn into that Snapfire, but he's in a 1v3 situation. Gets skewered to the other side, still has waveform. Will be going into the cover of the arms of Carl, who gets off Laguna Blade, but no resulting kill here.
Very, very big one there on Y. Not sure how many charges he had, but
we need a replay in SFM of that double cookie exchange.
How did one of them get stunned but not the other?
I don't know. Why? He's going to be spotted here, but we'll get the Nightmare off with a couple more right clicks. He doesn't really have anybody that near him, but it is just a support Weaver, of course.
Avoids the swarm. He has Dust. And if Zephyr is feeling cute here and trying to take the bounty rune, he could find himself dead, but... Oh, Zinkyo.
Yeah, Zephyr just being a very annoying presence is nothing to say. Almost has his tower dead to rights. And the question is, will they get the deny? Likely yes. And that's going to go to
CM deny.
Yeah, if I were a betting man, I would have lost a lot of money on that one.
Yeah,
No doubt.
I don't think Crystal Maiden gets many denies in a tournament in general, including creeps. But.
So Faith Beyond is going to be playing, as you can see, the Magnus here. Magnus TB combo. What are your thoughts on that going forward?
Terrorblade has pretty high base damage in Metamorphosis, so he makes for a pretty good empower target. You might not think about it conceptually as a melee hero, which, you know, a lot of the time Terrorblade is in melee form farming.
Yeah.
Doesn't really need empower as much as other carries do, since he has illusion farm. He just split pushes waves while farming jungle with his main, for example, but it still adds up. It gives you that little extra efficiency, and especially in Metamorphosis, the damage increase can make a very big difference.
You know, I was theory crafting that plus the shard for Terrorblade would be really good, but we haven't seen that yet, sadly. That's
some Terrorblades have got... Demon Zeal has been... I think I've seen it a couple of games in the tournament, but I don't think they've bought it.
Basically, it just allows you to stay in your melee form for a lot longer and not really lose out on much. There's nothing to say in the triangle now. He is going for the Blink Dagger first, so... Nothing to say. Typically, we were used to seeing him as like the mobility type heroes, burst damage. DK is obviously not quite that, but he's more the initiator and building destroyer, as it were. See how that fares to them here. So, I mean, so far, obviously, off to a very good start with his 2K net worth lead.
Yeah. PSG.LGD are just being super efficient, right? Like you're 3 kills behind, you got the triple kill mid for Lina, but the fact of the matter is they still end up losing their mid tower around minute 10.
Yeah.
And both Terrorblade and Magnus are having more or less a free game, especially Ame is completely untouched with all of the emphasis they had to put on nothing to say in mid. Ame has 10 CS per minute right now.
Well, I think one of the reasons LGD is so good is because of their general flexibility. Like, nothing to say. I just talked about how different of a role that is, technically speaking. And, oh, we're going to see the stop it. To the Fiend's grip. Cuckoo. Very unlucky. And that's going to be a kill going the way of Ame again.
3v1.
Yeah. That Centaur has some other agendas on the mind, no doubt.
Yep.
But we might see some action in this top lane. Nothing to say. I mean, Dragon Knight's not really one of those heroes that's going to take up that much space farming, so that leaves Faith Beyond to get really big. There's the stun into the RP. Do they have enough damage to take out the Morphling? Yes, indeed they do. And T1 absolutely getting crushed right now. 3K net worth lead. Nightmare. Do they have the vision? Yep. The time lapse in place just for the HP, but double kill goes the way of Jin Q. And a tier 1 tower to fall as well. But
talk about getting value out of a rune. He got 3 kills set up with that invis plus the tower, and one of them is that big Morphling on the enemy side. So huge here from PSG.LGD.
And T1 do get the tier 1 mid, so they get some sort of a trade at least.
Oh, Carl? What you doing, buddy? Is a dagger on the way, I think, for Dragon Knight, but will be a little bit too late. So Carl gets out of there. Very dangerous position to find himself in. Going for the standard Lina build here with travels into BKB. Like I talked about before, the concerns from Morph, they're kind of shared here with Lina, right? You get BKB, which you feel like you have to against some of this control of the Radiant side, including like Dragon Tail. But you're still susceptible to RP as well as grip. So you can't... In some games, you can get this BKB on Lina and you feel like Superman, you know, for a while in these fights. It's just not going to be the case. You still need to keep your cool and maintain really strong positioning. So, good news for T1 though, Cuckoo is about to get the dagger.
Well, bad news is that PSG.LGD now have 2 daggers to work with.
Yep.
So expect them to ramp it up
always,
even
more. As always, focus on the negatives. Thank you.
Well, that you could look at it as a positive for LGD. Why does that have to be a negative, Cinder?
That's actually very true.
Technically true, and technically is the best type of true.
That is, I love it.
Whoever said that is a genius.
Yep. It was probably me then.
Yep. Ame working on, looks like he has a Falcon Blade Yasha, so Scotty looks to be next. Is there any reason to, I mean, is he skipping the Manta for now and just get it later? Actually, probably has, maybe he is finishing Manta now. With just the recipe to go.
I think he's just gonna skip it. I think he gets Yasha as the value item here for farming speed, and you can. I don't think
it's
Manta
not much to dispel, so.
Yeah, exactly. It's not much to dispel. There's Frostbite, but you're gonna play around that. Probably.
Oh, nothing to say. Spots the smoke, blinks in to get the initiation. It's just Whitemon. So at the very least for T1, that's a silver lining.
Yeah, they need to get the hell out of there. Triangle gonna get dewarded now.
Yeah.
They are pinging that there should be a ward there. None of them have a sentry though. So, oh, they have one on nothing to say.
Yeah.
On the Dragon Knight. Just checking both supports. But that was something they were talking about in the panel as well, right? That these players, LGD are pretty creative about how they distribute their wards. And that time around, I believe nothing to say gets it. Keep in mind as well, something that's been in the game since this entire change with getting gold for dewarding, it is the player placing the sentry that gets the gold here. And
that's true.
That obviously means if you're in a commanding position and you make a team move, you can funnel extra gold into your cores by letting them deward instead of having supports do it. So, depending on the circumstance, I think having sentries on, in theory, every hero in the backpack could actually be kind of cool, right? Because then whoever needs the gold the most can be given the gold at any given time. It might be something that LGD are taking more advantage of than other teams.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those changes that you... I mean, that was of note for that patch, but taking full advantage of it.
Sorry, I said the person that plays the ward. I meant the person who buys the ward, right?
Cinder, everybody knows what you're saying is correct, okay?
Yes.
Even if what you say isn't.
But like, imagine this. Imagine in the game, every player buys one sentry, right?
Yeah.
You buy a sentry and you bring it with you, and then whenever you make a move, you can choose who gets the gold. I mean, it's kind of... It's like very... It's a very, very detailed play, so to say, but when you're on LGD's level and you min-max basically everything, you could see why they would do something like that. I do think it was his own sentry, right? It does display that nothing to say got the gold at least, so I do think he bought it.
4K net worth lead now for LGD, and you have to think that's just going to increase thanks to this Empower being placed constantly on Ame with that TB, allowing him to just take Ancients without having a meta. And Carl, at the very least, we'll get this tier 2 bot. So it does have a BKB.
That's a tier 1
travel
Shin.
right now.
It's the first tower.
That is the first tower?
Yep.
What did I just say?
Tier 2. But you probably said tier 2 because it was the second tower of the game.
Second tier 1 tower, Synderen. Let's get a cheer for Synderen for correcting me. Really appreciate that.
Woo!
Let's get cheers in the chat. Appreciate that.
Looking behind me, the crowd loves it.
Yeah, Ricky is very proud of you. All right, Scotty online. Is this the go time? Because ever since they picked up these Blink Dagger, they haven't really done that much. They had that one smoke gank that just resulted in 1 CM kill.
There it is.
And now they have Scotty. Thank you.
There's
Thank
the
you,
cheer.
chat. Really
Thank you. Very good.
Man, that's actually a lot of fun. Not gonna lie. Now we have just like I said. So Scotty is go time. Yeah. PSG.LGD. They might just go for Roche potentially. Probably would prefer to get a pick off beforehand.
Yeah, and they might just find Zephyr here.
Zephyr?
No ward though.
Yeah.
Okay, there's
counter
smoke breaks.
smoke now.
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
Area, but doesn't look like there'll be a resulting kill, at least not yet. Kuko, in the meantime, has his armlet. We've been seeing that pretty much every game on Legion Commanders, along with the Blink Dagger that you mentioned. So they have some counter initiation possibility. But with the looming RP potential, that is the scariest thing for T1.
For sure. I do think that was a really nice play there from Zephyr, though. He was hiding behind the tree line and had the ward in front. So as soon as that smoke breaks, he can immediately just Shikuchi away. And they have a very hard time finding the opening on him. So basically just a safe breaker there. And with superior vision right now in this area, Kuko's kind of potentially thinking about this. They will see the wall.
Oh! RP was canceled at the very least, but it's going to cost Faith beyond his life. I don't know if that was just perfect timing or if that was actual reaction. Overwhelming odds comes out. Carl continuing to chase. Don't think they want to go high ground. A little bit too sketchy. Only a 25-second death timer, so not enough time to really go for Roche, but the smoke from T1 trying to wrap around. But you can see the position from PSG.LGD. There is the initiation. That's going to be the first duel victory for Kuku. And when it's this early in the game, it's really difficult to go get Roche because the timers are so low and they didn't really expend anything. RP's still online. Like, if he had used his RP, then maybe.
Yeah. Important there for Faith Beyond to cancel it, right? It was a very quick reaction from both players, really. He blinked up and RP'd and canceled it immediately as soon as the Legion Commander blinked out. Like, this is some really fast reaction. So you see the courier here finding that observer ward, so they know that's the case. Really, really close to blowing the RP there, but Kuku obviously with that ward pre-placed had his finger on the blink button and got out. And all right, only 1K lead now for PSG.LGD. That was the biggest gold swing that T1 have had go their way in the entire game.
Yep, absolutely. As you're going to see, Whitemon get picked off.
RP.
RP.
Nice press.
Okay. Well, that didn't result in much. Here's the duel onto the Dragon Knight. Buyback down from Whitemon, but it looks like the damage is going to go the way of the Dragon instead. It will be a trade of lives, though. And that is a dieback on the Whitemon. And we'll see if this is enough for PSG.LGD to try to go into the Roche pit. It's 2 dead.
So you know when you buy back and die again, the timer gets added on top?
Yeah.
I wonder how many extra death seconds he got out of this, because he was alive like a good 1 second after teleporting in.
Yeah,
so
that's a long time.
A net loss, trying to overtake Puppy's record of time spent dead at TI here, Whitemon.
Wow. Well, his is more out of quantity than anything, though, right?
That's true. He's got a lot of ways to go.
I mean, I'm sure you can compete with that despite only playing in a couple TIs, right?
That's a good joke, Sunsfan
Thank
TV.
You. Right, appreciate that, Caesar. Yep. Let's get a cheer for that joke in chat, please. Really. Carl. TP's back to base. Not sure why I mentioned that. Yes, the Shadow Blade. Arcane Rune is bottled, so that's kind of a big deal. But like you said, despite that fight, still only a 1K net worth lead for LGD right now.
Wait, hang on. I just realized, who was it that had the most time dead? Puppy was 3rd on that thingy. On the the words fail me today.
Eloquent as always. 65%.
Who was first?
Is this surprising to you?
Shannon, tell me. Who has the most time spent dead? It was not Puppy.
I don't know.
Was it Coral?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Puppy was 3rd. Now,
this is the TI main stage, Synderen.
Yeah, it was a nice graphic.
For God's sake.
Graphic was the word. It came to me in a dire moment of need here. What I think about the win expectancy being 2-1?
You're going to have to hold that thought. We got a duel coming in.
All right.
And Kuku gets some more damage. Okay, that's a random centaur from the Helm of the Dominator from Mr. Magnet.
They're gonna go for this. They know there's no RP.
Yeah,
and
it's another 10 seconds though, so it's cutting in a bit close.
Oh,
we got the horn toss. Whitemon dead again. He's just racking up these deaths, but Cuckoo and company, E-Blade is not going to be enough to take out Faith Beyond. He's going to have RP now. Zephyr taking quite a bit of damage, but will back up to safety. And I think T1, you can see the Mortimer's Kisses. This is definitely going to force them back. And the Dragon Knight initiates onto Cuckoo, has to press the attack himself. Looks like he will be able to walk away safely, though.
This is looking like a potential PSG.LGD Roche. 5 seconds on Metamorphosis.
And they're smoking.
They have RP, and they do have a really good ward here. Oh,
Carl gets Dragon Tail, but there's the press the attack save. 23 Savage able to blow up wide. Does have buyback, though. There's the skewer back into the Laguna Blade. They're not going to be able to get the kill, but it's going to be a trade either way. Magnus not able to get off his RP. Pretty big deal, but a big cookie from Jin Q. The follow-up from Nothing to Say. They will have enough damage to tear through him. 65 seconds of no Lina.
That shard on Snap is so good. We already had a highlight clip earlier today, pre-match, when you saw Jin Q, I believe in one of the qualifiers, hitting a nutty one of those, and that one, another high-impact play, stun into stun into stun, into death.
Yeah.
They probably had
another Dragon Tail. The save is not enough, though. Press the attack. Usually a fail-safe. Not this time around. Just too much damage to work with on LGD's side. And that should finally mean Roche is conceded.
Gonna go the way of Ame here. Working his way now toward a BKB. Just wants that safety against primarily the E-Blade, you would imagine, but also against the Lina Lightstrike Array. It is a real feels-good item. Also helps a little bit against Crystal Maiden, who, you know, CM has this reputation of just falling off, right?
I thought you were going to say dying a lot.
Yeah, well,
she has a lot of reputation.
That's a part of it.
Yeah.
The thing is, over the last many years, like if you haven't watched too much Dota, Crystal Maiden has reached a point where she can actually scale pretty well and have really high impacts in the later, mid to later portions of the game, primarily because there's just more gold in the game. And Crystal Maiden benefits so much from getting items like Dagger and BKB. It sounds like a lot, but it happens more frequently than you'd think. In this game, though, Whitemon is at the bottom of the food chain.
Yes. This is looking like a patch from like 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, he
2.5
is
years ago.
very, very poor, and it just means you're food. Like, he dies to literally 3 attacks from Terrorblade. If he gets caught by anything, he's just gone. So Whitemon, there's a lot of pressure on him to stay very, very far back, get in a good position, and more than likely just accepting that Freezing Field is going to be exceptionally difficult to use here.
Yeah. Oh, you do have press the attack shard, Cinderin.
That's true.
To give you a brief moment of magic immunity.
1.75 seconds of ulti there.
Very good.
He could actually still
like
just
you
die
said,
to Terrorblade.
either way, they have 2 BKB piercing stuns.
Yeah. If you get one of those on the Maiden, you're probably happy, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, we have the initiation from Nothing to Say. Dragon Tail, Faith Beyond, skewers back into the fray. An easy pickoff for LGD again. Still holding that Aegis for another 3 minutes. We'll see what they can do with this Dragon form. We'll likely go for the tier 2 top.
Yeah. Queuing up his own BKB as well. Seems like LGD are trying to hit a timing here with double BKB on Terrorblade as well as the Dragon Knight. Obviously, Terrorblade gets it a little bit earlier.
Yep.
But that is going to be a really big problem from T1. From a damage perspective, if your Lina is pressured in the fight so she has to run away, I don't think you can kill anyone in BKB. This Morphling build is not good against BKB. You have Lincolns as well as E-Blade. There's none of that like strong right click, which is like a Butterfly or a Daedalus. Nothing of that kind. LGD is just going to go for it. Go high ground. 25 minutes, you have Aegis, you have all your cooldowns.
Yeah, why not?
Dragon form is running out,
online. There's the Metamorphosis, and the tower is going to fall very, very quickly.
T1, your base is burning. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
No fortification available either.
They're actually just giving this lane up because Cuckoo's dead. They can't defend.
Yeah. Can't blame them. Still 2 minutes on that Aegis. So like you said, it will be a completely free set of racks for LGD, who now sport an 8K network lead. Carl.
Just so clean, right? They see that they have enough time for this. They grab exactly what they can, get out, and lose nothing.
Yeah.
That was even with Dragon Form expiring about 2 seconds into the push, but they're just so confident.
Oh, he gets the Nightmare off. That's the Aether Lens. Look at that ridiculous range. Of course, has Fiend's Grip if they really need it, but it doesn't look like it'll come to be. Oh, press the attack. They're actually going to expend RP. This is a really important kill. Lina finally taken out. does take quite a bit, but nice catch there by Y.
Yeah, that was a little bit of miscommunication on LGD's part. They end up using both RP as well as grip through that skewer, but I don't know if T1 realized, so perhaps they're still going to be scared of the grip. I think Y canceled it very, very quickly. Yeah, that's a big pick on Carl and LGD, just straight down mid.
Yep, still a minute to burn.
They want to force the buyback, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, can't blame them.
All right, they get it.
Yeah, DK looks fine for now, but there's the duel. Can they save him? Carl pops a BKB, trying to create as much space on the sideline as possible. Laguna Blade blows up the Bane in the meantime. Eventually, Cuckoo does fall. It's a 2-for-2 with the buyback now onto Carl. And with that, PSG.LGD will back away. Oh, they find the horn toss onto Zephyr and get the time lapse off, up to full HP again. Still working on an Aghanim Scepter for himself, which is another turning point potential for T1.
Very, very close to
T1 gets something. Yeah.
Yep, they do. It's expensive to buy back your Lina, though. And just as expensive, you saw in that exact situation, if Bane had Fiend Script there, I think they win the game, almost. If they would have just gripped the Lina. But Carl could go there straight in, kill off Y, and at least build up a little bit of momentum in the fight for them. It's still not looking great for T1, but you can be a little bit hopeful if they are the ones to get the initiate, or when, like you said, the Weaver Axe is a big item this game against both RP as well as the Fiend Script, trying to keep heroes alive. I believe the Fiend Script should still be channeling. If you do get time-lapse, it sticks on you, basically, but the repositioning can be easily enough to save you, especially against Terrorblade. Oh, Zephyr!
Yeah.
Hello.
Showing here. Oh, the shard into the cookie. Goodbye. He talked about the power of Jin-Q Shard, and when you combine that with a Blink Dagger, it is very hard to avoid, even as a Weaver.
He was not expecting to find enemies there, but PSG.LGD have that ward sentry combination. They were ready.
Radiant's bottom
And look at the discrepancy between 1 and 2 here, between 23 Savage and Ame.
Yep.
That is pretty gigantic. And it's just growing from here. So Ame, what's he working on now? Obviously finished the Manta a while ago into the BKB and has his sights set towards Chrysalis. And then for 23 Savage on the other side, you talked about the Lincolns. I mean, would you change this build in any way? It feels like Lincoln's is almost necessary, but at the same time, I mean, Lincoln's doesn't feel that bad on Morphling just because of the stats nature to it, but
yeah, it's
you're still lacking some damage, right?
Yeah, you are. Maybe he wants to bypass BKB entirely in his build and just trust Cuckoo to press the attack, the biggest key spell, but still needs the Lincolns against the Bane, and I think his item build is fine. It's just, like you said, you need more, and the problem is LGD have been ahead the whole game, just pushing in your waves better.
Yeah.
So Terrorblade will be that one major item ahead. And as far as Ame goes, he doesn't have a defensive item similar to Lincoln's. He has the BKB, which is super high impact for the type of team fights that LGD's lineup plays. It's very high burst. You get an RP, you get a grip, you get a Dragon Tail, and you just commit and go. The only thing you've had to worry about the whole game until now was that the press the attack, but now there's a second quote-unquote press the attack from Zephyr. And this is a smoke timing for T1. They're gonna go for it.
Yeah, and this is gonna be the Axe reveal, like you said. So we'll see if PSG.LGD play around that or not. But it could have huge impact, as apparently only one buyback in the game right now, for nothing to say.
Yeah, he also has a gem, and he's holding a very strong high ground position. Jin-Q.
Oh, yeah, he
in
spots
Glimmer
him out.
Cape into Blink.
All right. Yeah, they thought that somebody was high ground, but they didn't know he was invisible as well, as Ame is going to show bot lane. And it looks like this tier 2 will fall as a result.
Just masterfully done from LGD, right? They avoid the smoke play, they get the stronger position, and they get a tower. So effectively, T1 smoke to lose there. Usually, the worst case scenario when you smoke, if you don't find a fight, is that the enemy team hides, but you gain some ground. You didn't even gain ground, you actually lost it.
Into the jungle, LGD goes. It's not an insurmountable lead for T1 to try to come back from.
Cuckoo!
Oh, that was felt like a longer TP. Not sure where he ended up, but no, it was just in the fountain. Maybe not. Cutting it close there. Still working on his BKB.
Roche
as second Roche is available. Who gets the shards?
I was gonna. You said it first.
I mean, Faith Beyond already has his, right? So
You do a really good Suns fan impersonation. Did you know that?
oh boy, that's an insult. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe you get the Demon Zeal. I'm not sure actually. This game. This is could go for the Dragon Man one's okay.
I actually think they're gonna give him the Zeal here.
Alright, yep, there it is. Yep. You will consume it. So Demon Zeal, basically costing 20% of TB's HP, and you get movement speed, attack speed. While in melee form, you get even more.
It's a double up.
Yeah. Pretty strong, and especially when combined, like we talked about, with the Empower. I mean, not that he's having trouble farming right now, Synderen, but this will add it to another level. As Faith Beyond will get the skewer up into the Dragon Tail, and Whitemon again. The crowd goes wild. Yeah. They really like watching Crystal Maiden die.
I was like, damn, he only took 2 hits like expected. He even has a plate mail. Like, imagine if he did on the Maiden. Yeah. It's tough times to be a Crystal Maiden in this game. You get caught by literally anything, you're just gone. So, easy
she
pick
is quite
there.
slow, sadly. So, Ame, I guess next item for him is actually just going to be the completed Daedalus, which I would assume takes the place of his boots if his Aegis is still in his inventory.
And worth keeping in mind when you have Satanic like this, Demon Zeal just feels good to use. You restore your health so fast anyway, so using it in fights, sometimes that can be a double-edged sword. Yeah, you get more damage, but you also take 20% health. Usually when you have Satanic, it doesn't really matter that much. All you need is to get in one attack when you're starting to struggle, and you're going to get all of that health back right in, and here we go.
And here we have meta popped again.
Oh, Carlos in position.
Oh, the skewer back with the horn toss set up into the RP, but no! Press the attack waveform is enough to bait out the RP. And T1, see if they want to try to take advantage of this. I mean, they're going to have to if this continues to go in LGD's favor with this push. E-Blade onto Ame. You can see the jump in from nothing to say with an overwhelming blick being shown as Carl has to pop his BKB, and there is the duel. Do they have enough damage? But the Sunder from Ame, allowing the duel victory to go the way of nothing to say. He's just going to walk that one off, but 23 Savage can't walk that one off. That is just too much damage to withstand. And Carl jumps in. This is going to be the beginning of the end, I do believe, although 2 buybacks come up for T1. And the Metamorphosis is running out, but again, he has Demon Zeal to work with. Bane's going to take a tumble. Whitemon drops to the deck as well, 1 for 1. Laguna Blade, Ame getting extremely low. That's just the Aegis, though. And Carl completely out of mana. Nothing to say is still alive throughout all of this, some way, somehow. They're just going to apply all the pressure to the racks here. This will be a dieback onto Carl.
All the
and it looks like that is going to be enough to GG out of game 1. And like we talked about, Synderen, T1 have looked really good after that first day of the group stage, but LGD are just on another level of everyone so far. Just game 1, though.
Do you know what LGD stands for, Sensfan?
What's that?
Looking good, dominating.
God, that is awful.
Thank you.
You know how to kill a cat.
Yeah, that's what I do.
You know how to just ruin the moment.
I take a moment and I destroy it. Just like LGD did. T1 seemed like they had a couple of moments and they just got taken away right in front of them. It's not... There really isn't... You know what's kind of scary in a way here? Is that this didn't even feel like LGD's best game of the tournament to me. Like, they had a couple of hiccups where a little bit of spellcasting doesn't go perfectly, and it's because we expect perfection from them, but it still wasn't really close. That's a little bit worrying for T1 going into the next game.
We've seen some teams get off to a pretty good start against LGD. Like, they've been down 20K, but they end up coming back because they don't make that many mistakes when it comes to mid to late game. That's the issue for the other teams playing against them.
The one game that they did lose in the groups was against Secret. I think LGD played a strategy with Alchemist, and Secret had, I want to say, Ogre Tiny, and Matumba Man just ended up overpowering. So Secret actually won a late game situation against LGD, which seems like not many teams can get into a late game position where they're competitive. Like you said, the game, I believe it was against Elephant, as a matter of fact. Elephant had a huge advantage and still ended up losing later. So, well, T1, you gotta find the secret sauce for this next game because LGD are looking hot.
I won't go there. Let's just go to the panel instead.
Hot.
I liked it, Synderen. Now, that was kind of a long game for LGD, boys. Went over 30 minutes. Short for T1, as you reminded me, Tsunami. But do you think it was just a case of them biding their time just to be absolutely sure now they're on the main stage?
Yeah, I think that if anything, they need to start practicing what happens after 30 minutes. They haven't been there in so long that they're like, might have to experiment. Like, oh man, I haven't even seen that tier of neutral items yet. We need to figure out how do we recalibrate. Or maybe they're just very good and they were also showing T1 respect.
We've got to talk about the draft. It seemed like T1 were kind of doomed from the start, Ari. It was weird. Even I could see it was a little bit weird.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I think
Just a little.
their draft wasn't that bad versus LGD, but I think their concept on the draft maybe felt a bit off for them. I think usually what happens is if they can enable Cuckoo, him and the two supports will be able to make some plays. And like CM Weaver Legion, it didn't look like that this game. I think, honestly, a bit of the decisions that T1 made around their heroes looked off to me. Like, I think Cuckoo going for Armlet was not good for Terrorblade. I think CM had to go Max Nova this game in order for them to have a chance. Them not doing that, it just led to them not really being able to pressure LGD.
I mean, if you look at Cuckoo there, the Legion commander, no kills, but it wasn't just that. It was also his gold lead was actually quite far behind pretty much everyone. And seeing as this is a player that we talk about putting his farm priority ahead of his teammates, if he's not able to get anything done, not able to get some shopping in his cart, Jenkins, how is the rest of his team going to have any hope?
You know, I think that naturally happens when you fall behind as an offlaner. It's just kind of the role that, like, once the map starts closing in, once the fights start happening, your mid and your carry get the priority, unfortunately for Master Cuckoo here. But to me, the biggest thing that I saw from LGD this game that made it look so dominating, and I think T1 actually on the other side, and this is why the game took so long, T1 had some great aspects of this as well. They changed their timings. So nothing to say invis rotation towards that top tower with DK. So number one, he takes the mid tower with his DK form. And then right after that, he picks up an invis rune and then he heads towards the top tower and he sets up like a triple kill with the invis rune. And obviously that's something that like, you're not guaranteed an invis rune. So it's not like LGD is doing this in every game, but there's some equivalent, haste rune, whatever. And then after that, he gets his blink. They smoke directly into the triangle, which is the polar opposite area of the map. And then they get a kill there. And then from that, they have like a 3 to 4K gold lead at 10 minutes. And the game feels a lot easier than all of a sudden Cuckoo falls behind like we just saw. And I think on the other side, T1 actually chained timings like this as well and almost came back at a point where Cuckoo was standing on the high ground and then Mag blinked in to RP. Cuckoo blinked out because they were camping a ward. They killed the Mag or they killed somebody and then they smoked up and then killed in the triangle as well. And that got them a little bit of a lead, but then LGD just kept chaining timings after that. But you talk about this a lot. How like I remember during NADBC, you were always like, they should chain smokes here. They should chain smokes here because in Dota, you really need to only win. If you win like one fight, it puts you in the lead. If you win another fight, it makes it so the enemy team, you're stomping the enemy team. If you win 3 fights in a row, there's no way that they can win. That's how things scale in Dota. It's like exponential scaling.
And it looked early game like T1 was scaling pretty well, Tsunami. But, you know, it was literally just in the laning phase. That was kind of part of LGD's plan.
If you are ever feeling like you're in the lead, I think it's because LGD are giving you permission to be in the lead. They're like, that's fine. You can have what you want. And teams are often like, they get complacent whenever they have those circumstances that they're like, wow, things are going kind of how we wanted them to go. It's only because LGD is letting it happen right now.
It really feels that way with this team.
And so every single time I look at a last hit differential, I'm like, I don't really know if that tells me anything. Even in the mid lane, where it should be the most definitive, oftentimes things are happening elsewhere. It's like LGD are establishing stacks that you need to be worried about, and they're getting ready to do rotations and stuff like that. So no one has found the solution yet, and that's why LGD only have dropped a single game throughout this entire tournament thus far.
I thought that mid lane 3v3 that was happening was actually favoring T1 because I was sitting there thinking like, oh, Lina's like a better late game hero than DK. But then I realized once DK picks up the Blink Dagger, it was all gas, no brakes for LGD. And so, sure, in the late game, Lina's going to be a better hero than DK because you just do the most damage, like even considering carries. But DK, if you're getting enough out of his Blink timing, it's actually better for the DK team.
I wanted to ask about Roshan. There's a fight towards the end of the game, about 32 minutes in, and LGD are literally free to get it. And it seemed like T1, they're just spinning in the jungle. They could have gone for a tower or done something. I'm going at the screen. I'm just like, why are they just spinning on the mini-map? And Tsunami had the theory that they were trying to help Lena farm and protecting her. But do you think that was a mistake? Do you think actually maybe they should have prioritized pushing?
I think with that lineup at that point in the game, there's nothing you could do anymore. I think if T1 wanted, like, that sort of play where it looks awkward to spectators, it happens because they're like trying to evaluate their options and they can't find a clear win condition. And if you don't have a clear objective in mind, then oftentimes you're just doing random things while trying to think of it. And it looks weird, but honestly, I don't think there's anything better they could do. Like T1 this draft, they had to have bot lane go better in order to win this game.
Jenkins.
Yeah.
I enjoy listening to you talk about Dota. You might have realized by now. If you haven't, I enjoy listening to hearing you talking about Dota.
What are you setting up for right now?
I heard you describe Terrorblade as the ultimate man fighter during that last game.
Yeah,
so the floor is yours.